Your Meta Ads budget is not disappearing in one big mistake. It leaks through small choices that look sensible, spend normally, and still wreck performance over 7, 14, even 30 days without setting off obvious alarms. That is the trap. You see impressions, clicks, maybe leads, so you assume the budget is healthy. But stable spending can hide weak delivery, thin data, and bad campaign structure for weeks, especially when top-line metrics look flat instead of clearly collapsing. So ask 2 questions. Is your budget large enough to generate meaningful learning from, say, 20 to 50 useful conversion signals? And is it concentrated enough to let Meta find patterns instead of scattering spend everywhere across 6 weak branches? When budget structure is wrong, you do not just pay more for results. You lose trust in your tests. That means you can no longer tell whether the creative, audience, offer, or landing page is the problem, so every fix starts looking equally unconvincing. A lot of advertisers treat budget like a number they plug in after strategy. Meta does not. Budget changes who gets reached, how fast data comes in, and whether the system can optimize at all, which means it shapes outcomes before creative ever proves itself. More spend does not fix weak structure. It magnifies weak structure, often faster than advertisers expect and with much clearer evidence. The first mistake is simple and common. You set a budget so low that Meta never gets enough conversion feedback. The campaign runs, but it learns from scraps instead of patterns, like trying to judge a market from only 3 shoppers. Learning is Meta's early optimization phase, when it tests delivery patterns to predict who is most likely to complete your chosen event. If the budget is tiny, those predictions stay noisy and fragile, so one random purchase can distort the apparent winner. If your target cost per purchase is $20, a $5 daily budget is usually too thin to produce trustworthy conversion data. The platform needs room to test, not just permission to spend, because one conversion every few days is not stable evidence. You choose a tiny budget because it feels disciplined. But safe spend is not always efficient spend. A campaign that cannot gather useful signal can waste every dollar while looking financially cautious, which is why low risk emotionally can still mean high waste mathematically. The second mistake is budget fragmentation. You split one modest budget across too many audiences, interests, placements, or creative angles. Each ad set gets a few crumbs and none receives enough traction, like dividing $50 across 8 experiments and expecting certainty. A single focused ad set often beats 5 underfunded ones, even when the total budget is identical. Concentration gives the system cleaner evidence. Fragmentation gives you a spreadsheet full of weak guesses, and weak guesses are expensive when you start making optimization decisions from them. This usually starts with good intentions. You want to test everything at once. Different interests, ages, hooks, placements, formats. But every new branch demands budget, and testing breadth can quietly destroy testing depth, even though broad coverage feels more sophisticated on paper. You know this is happening when spend stays uneven, results are inconsistent, and several ad sets never exit weak delivery. The account looks busy, but no single test receives enough budget to prove anything, so activity rises while confidence in conclusions keeps falling. Another budget mistake hides inside objective selection. You ask a cold campaign to optimize for purchases when you barely get any. Then your budget is spent searching for a signal that almost never appears, which is like training on data points you hardly ever collect. The deeper the event, the stronger the business intent, but the rarer the signal. If your budget and traffic volume are low, a higher funnel event can sometimes produce more stable learning, even if a purchase objective sounds more serious and strategically pure. Budget has to match event volume, audience size, and creative freshness at the same time. If even one of those is weak, the campaign can spend fully and still optimize badly, because full spend only proves spending happened, not that learning was healthy. Now we get to a painful habit. You touch the budget every day. Up after a good morning, down after a weak evening. That constant interference prevents delivery from settling into a usable pattern, so the system keeps adjusting instead of compounding what it learned. Meta performance naturally swings by day, hour, and auction conditions. If you react to every wiggle, you treat normal variance like proof. Your budget strategy becomes mood, not measurement, and mood usually overweights the last 6 hours instead of the last 7 days. A budget change is not just a financial move. It is a delivery signal to the system, and systems tend to respond to signals whether your reason was thoughtful or impulsive. Advertisers often see one strong day and double the budget. The problem is speed. A sudden jump can force the campaign into broader, lower-quality delivery before it has enough stable evidence, especially if yesterday's success came from a narrow pocket of demand. When spend expands faster than signal quality, Meta reaches further into the auction to find inventory. You still get delivery, but you may buy less qualified attention at a higher effective cost, the same way urgency often makes any market less selective. That is why many buyers scale in smaller steps instead of dramatic jumps. The exact percentage varies by account, but controlled increases preserve readability better than emotional doubling, particularly when lead quality or conversion rate already shows mild instability. Budget only makes sense in relation to audience size. A decent daily spend can still be wrong if the audience is tiny. Then frequency rises fast, fatigue appears early, and results decay before you notice, sometimes after only a few thousand reachable people are exhausted. Retargeting campaigns are especially vulnerable. The audience feels warm, so advertisers push budget harder. But warm does not mean infinite. Once the pool saturates, extra spend mostly buys repetition, not growth, and frequency of 4, 6, or 8 can arrive surprisingly fast. Then there is the CBO versus ABO question. Campaign budget optimization lets Meta shift spend between ad sets. Ad set budget optimization gives you tighter manual control. The wrong choice can distort your tests, especially when your goal is fairness rather than pure short-term efficiency. Use CBO when you trust Meta to concentrate spend towards stronger ad sets. Use ABO when you need equal testing pressure. Problems start when you expect one setup to behave like the other, then misread the outcome as a creative verdict instead of a budget mechanic. Here is the counterintuitive part. Budget mistakes are often not budget problems. They are structure problems exposed by money. Increased spend, and weak targeting, weak creative, or weak offers become visible faster because pressure reveals what a gentle budget could temporarily hide. If performance drops after a budget increase, you might blame Meta immediately. Sometimes Meta is doing exactly what you asked. It is spending more against a system that was never strong enough to absorb more spend, which is different from the platform simply failing you. The strongest accounts are rarely the ones making constant budget moves. They are the ones with clear testing rules, enough consolidation, and patience long enough to read the signal honestly, even when the answer is slower and less exciting than hoped. Start by matching daily budget to the event you want. If you cannot realistically produce enough conversions, either raise the budget, broaden the setup, or test a more frequent event temporarily, then graduate deeper once signal density improves. Next, reduce unnecessary branches. Fewer ad sets with clearer differences usually beat a crowded account full of tiny tests. You want contrast strong enough to learn from, not noise dressed as granularity, because neat labels do not create valid evidence. Before your next change, check for things. Is the event realistic? Is the audience large enough? Is the budget concentrated enough? And are you reacting to data over time, not emotion in the moment, such as one bad afternoon or one lucky spike? If you fix only one thing, fix budget discipline. Set cleaner structures, give them enough room, and stop forcing meaning from tiny samples. Waste usually shrinks when your account becomes easier for Meta to understand, measure, and optimize without daily interference from you. Cut waste, keep what works, and let clean structure do the heavy